What's up? Happy end of the lockout day. Finally, the lockout is over. Man. Thanks for joining me this evening. My name's Tom Frumming, aka TF Twins. We're going to talk about this new collective bargaining agreement. Going to get into the nuts and bolts more on the actual baseball side of things, the on the field side of things. Not really going to touch a whole lot on the sort of salary updates as far as like the minimum pay or like the competitive balance tax, which applies to so few teams anyway. And, you know, this being a Twins channel, we don't have to worry about that. We know the Twins aren't going to be pushing up against the competitive balance tax anytime soon. And really nobody in the AL Central does either. So that's kind of not a major concern for a Twins fan. But we're going to get into this. You know, I'd promised on the live stream shows that we've been doing every Wednesday evening, you know, hadn't gotten into like a lot of details on the lockout negotiations through all this because, you know, I said once we kind of get things hammered out, then we'll discuss, you know, what went down. We'll kind of analyze things from there. So that's what we're going to do here. Standing up to my promise here. MSP Aviation, thanks for coming back. Yeah, we were just talking baseball here on the channel yesterday. So let me swap this here. So I've got my list of items. And so I've got a bullet list here of just the major items that are changing, especially in terms of the on-the-field product. You know, and especially with things, you know, seemingly changing so much with the negotiations over time. There were sort of things on the table that were then taken off the table, things on the table that were adjusted eventually. So, you know, if you've been having a hard time keeping up or not really sure what was going down from these negotiations, here we have it here. You know, number one, obviously, opening day set for April 7th. We are going to have a full 162-game season. That is clearly the headline of the day, the reason to celebrate baseball. At Major League Baseball is going to be back. We're going to get a full season. Number two also is sort of the second biggest free agency or transactions. The transaction freeze has ended, so Major League Baseball is open for business right now. Open for business. Derek Falvey could sign a Major League contract tonight, for all we know. It's going to be nuts. It's going to be absolutely crazy because, like this says, we have less than a month until opening day, and there are a lot of free agents. There are a lot of trade options out there, so it could get really nuts. Man, what's up? Hey, everybody, thanks for stopping in. I'm going to try to keep up with the chat as good as I can. You can see on the screen here, you can keep up with everybody as well and kind of follow along. Definitely encourage side conversations. You guys definitely chat amongst yourselves if you got some good topics going on. All right. And Pam's asking if I'm going to any spring game. I am not going to any spring games, but I'll definitely be going to some Saints games, especially early on. I'm not going to the opener, but definitely early on, I'll be out at Siebert too on the U of M campus. Looking forward to a lot of baseball this summer. When's the first signing going to be, Bulldog? A lot of people are kind of interested to see what's going to happen tonight. I'm not expecting a whole lot to sort of come through officially. I think, you know, teams are going to have to sort of finalize things, but again, things are going to move fast. So I'm not expecting a whole lot to happen tonight. But tomorrow should be insane. And then basically every day for a couple weeks is going to be just nuts. Because, yeah, it's open for business now. Spring training games start. I think I saw March in like a week, I think. And, you know, another thing I want to say before we get into some of these details is there are still some things coming out, details coming out. So, you know, I'm working with the most concrete information that I have here. So, again, you know, the major items, you know, we're back in. MLB, the lockout is done. They have a collective bargaining agreement. We're not going to have to do this for at least 5 more years. Thank goodness. I wish they could have made it a 20-year CBA. Because, yeah, I know some people kind of enjoy getting into the nuts and bolts of everything, but I did not have fun with this at all. And then, again, the transaction freeze is over. Free agency is open for business. The universal DH, there are some rule changes that you may have discussed. We'll talk about this in a sec that are not going into effect immediately, but the universal DH is going into effect immediately. The twin spin on this is all of a sudden, bats have some more trade value potentially. Now there are, if you look at a lot of NL teams, number one, it's only 15 more spots opening up. And before the lockout started, there was less activity on the position player side of things than there was on the pitching side. So there are some nice bats still available on the free agent market. Some of these National League teams do have sort of a logical DH that they already had in-house. But there are some teams out there that are going to be looking for some improvements in that area. And so I think, if you're a team like the Minnesota Twins, that it makes a lot of sense to potentially trade some of your position player depth away for pitching. This certainly benefits the Twins to some degree. Whether or not they can actually leverage that into making some moves, we'll find out. But the National League is going to have the DH. I personally am excited for that. I think it's a better game with the DH. And really, the way things are, sorry for traditionalists out there, but if you look up and down all the levels of competitive baseball these days, pitchers don't hit. So of course there's a unicorn in Shohei Ohtani every once in a while, but I think they'll always be two-way players in college and things like that. So it's not like there will completely be not an avenue for another player like that to come along. But there's no reason to make pitchers hit. It's not good. I don't enjoy that at all. And being an AL fan, probably not too surprising. I'm guessing a lot of you guys probably agree with me. This is something that I've been pretty positive about, and I'm actually even more positive about it now. The postseason expansion. A lot of people were kind of freaking out about this. There's going to be 12 playoff teams now. I know a lot of people found that a lot more palatable than 14, and I agree. Although I could see maybe some ways that 14 could have been done and not have been a disaster. 12 is a much better format. We're only adding one more playoff team per league. So, anybody that's really been dramatic about this, I think it's kind of ridiculous, to be honest with you. And I think objectively, this is a better playoff format. I really do. The top two division winners are going to receive a bye, and the wild card round is a 3-game series. There was some discussion about ghost wins, basically, to where, if you were the higher seed, you would sort of only need to win 1 game. And to where if you were the lower seed, you'd have to win 2 games to advance. That is not a thing. No ghost wins. And there's not going to be any game 163. So if there's ties, those ties are going to be broken by some kind of math formula. Not sure. That's one of those things that I'm not sure the details on yet. But, when you're adding some more playoff games, and especially this year, how they're going to accomplish this, getting 162 games in this year, is by adding more games onto the back end. So you run out of time at a certain point. So what I'm going to do, I'm a very visual person, hence the being a big video and liking having, I have this bulleted out because I just can consume content easier that way than like reading it line by line. This is a lot. There's a lot going on with this CBA, and that's kind of, I think, why it took a while to develop. It's frustrating they wasted so much time early on and didn't get to negotiating, but I can see why there was so many negotiations because there was a lot that they covered here. So I'm going to pull up an example of actually this past season, how the first 2 rounds would have looked. So this is on top, the American League and the National League. The yellow teams are division winners, and the blue teams would be the wild card teams. So this is how the playoff format would have looked in 2021. And as you can see, all these first series is a 3-game series. And then after that, it's just like we're used to. It's exactly like, so instead of 1 wild card game, we get 2 wild card series that are a 3-game series. And then from there, it's the same thing. So I really like this. Some people are concerned that adding another wild card kind of will not motivate teams to, lowering the barrier of entry to get into the playoffs will not motivate teams as much. However, if you think about it now, there's a way more incentive than there used to be one of the top 2 teams in the league. So the kind of the way I view it, And maybe this is sort of through the eyes of a Twins fan who has sort of soured on just making the playoffs. When you lose 18 straight playoff games, qualifying for the playoffs doesn't really do it for you anymore. You're looking for wins, you're looking for advancements. So to me, the way I'm viewing this is that basically that wild card round is essentially a play-in tournament to get to the big boys. So I don't think, teams shouldn't necessarily get any credit, so to speak, for qualifying for the playoffs. You're qualifying in that sense. If you're one of those 4 teams, the 2 best teams the 2 best division winners, in each league, that gets the buys, great job. If you're only getting to that point where you're in the wild card round, again, I am essentially viewing that as like a play-in tournament. I don't know that you should receive too much credit for that as an organization. And then if you win from there, then, you get more, you get more credit as you go. But I'll leave this up here for a moment so you guys can keep kind of looking at it if you want, and I'll try to catch up some on the chat here. Some comments on not expecting too much from the Twins as far as a shortstop signing. We're all looking for pitching, but they definitely need a shortstop as well. Among those options thrown out, I certainly am more excited about Jose Iglesias than an Andrelton Simmons rerun. What do I think the chances are that the front office lives up to their promise? They said the Twins will be competing this season. That's a great question, Andrew. And I do think they have more. There's even more motivation for the Twins given, again, it's only one more playoff spot. But that does make it a more realistic avenue for the Twins to bounce back and get into the playoffs. And then once you're in the playoffs, anything can happen. We know that from last year with the Atlanta Braves winning the World Series, literally the worst team that qualified for the postseason. They did a nice job retooling, and then they got hot and they won the World Series. So, the Twins, I think with the AL Central being still down, and that might not be the case for long. It's unfortunate that things fell apart to the degree they did for the Twins last year, because this is, even though the White Sox I'm not throwing any shade at the White Sox. That's a legit team. But the rest of the division is down, and now is a good time to strike because, Kansas City could be on the upswing soon. Cleveland could be on the upswing soon. Detroit is already, on the upswing and has good prospects. But they're all on the upswing still. So I would like to see the Twins get a little bit more aggressive and try to maybe not completely go for it. I'm not going to be expecting that. That's probably a little bit too much, but competing, like you say, how much do I think they'll live up to their promise of competing? The nice thing is like, I think even if they only added, let's say, Jose Iglesias on the position player side, they're already a good enough lineup, a good enough position player crop to be a competing team. The bullpen, I think, even though there are some questions, I think there are some kind of cheats that they could do. There's some prospects that aren't going to factor into the rotation that they can put in the bullpen and seriously have a major impact potentially on the bullpen without actually adding anything. And I'm not saying that I don't expect them to add any bullpen. They probably will go out and add some pieces, but I think that there's enough of a foundation there to have a solid bullpen. But the rotation, and this isn't anything new. You know this. Everybody knows this. The rotation is so far off. It's if they don't make major improvements to the rotation, it's very difficult to see how they could possibly compete. So that's certainly where I'm looking for them to make improvements. And the free agent crop is thinned out most definitely. But there's always trades. And then there are some nice guys in the free agent market that could really boost this rotation. So I think there is an avenue there. I'll put it this way. I'll be disappointed if the Twins don't, try to build a winning team. Cause then it's like, what are you doing? What are we up to here? You have enough of a foundation. Definitely, they're not gonna get to the point where they're favored in the division. I don't think that would take a lot. Chicago is a really good team, very solid. But I mean, again, we're having 3 wildcard teams. You're in the AL Central. That gives you an advantage. It's much less competitive than in like the AL East in particular. But so I'm hoping that the Twins get a little bit more aggressive. All right. Yeah, I'm also happy that it's 12. I think 12 was the right number for the playoffs. I think this format is better than the previous format. Just based off of kind of looking at it right now. Now, time will kind of tell. We'll sort of learn some things as we go. There might be some things that maybe this bye is going to be throw some teams off, but you would think after a 162 game season, that's a nice advantage to rest up for a little bit. Get your rotation set the way you want it, have some time off, have guys rest, have some time to maybe recover from some injuries. So we'll see. It's going to be an interesting new wrinkle. I really like it. I am super positive about this change. And again, it's only adding 2 more teams. It's not. I don't think it's that big of a deal. But I think we're getting 2 more teams into the playoffs, getting 2 more markets, having teams in the hunt for longer in the season. I think that's going to be a good thing. So happy to see that change. Now, you might have seen some other rule changes discussed quite often, and some speculation that those were going to get approved. These things sound like they're coming, but it's not going to be this season. So possible changes for 2023 are a pitch clock, bigger bases, shift limitations. So banning the shift, basically altering shifting somehow, automated strike zones. There's going to be a joint committee that has players, former players, I think team representatives and umpires that committee is going to have. That's going to be formed, that they're going to be sort of in charge of figuring out how would it be best to add these things. So it's not like they're rushing in and going to implement these things before they're ready. So we don't have to worry about that stuff this coming season in the major leagues. Some of this stuff is definitely a lot of this stuff is already in the minor leagues as far as like the pitch clock. I'm pretty sure the bigger bases they tried in triple. So they're going to continue to kind of tweak these things on the minor league level, I expect. Kind of another nuts and bolts thing of, actually concrete, on the field / roster management. You can only option a player 5 times in a season. And that kind of terminology of like a guy being out of options can be a little confusing. If you have an option to burn, that means you can be sent down from the major league team to the minor leagues. That is using an option. However, once your option is used, in the past, a team could jack you up and down from the AAA to the majors as many times as they wanted in a season, unlimited, which really was kind of unfortunate for some guys. They were just yo-yoing back and forth constant. If you were like the 27th man, basically, the amount of time some of these guys went from AAA to the majors is kind of crazy. So now there is a cap on that. You can only do it 5 times. I'm guessing once, if you hit that limit, I'm guessing that player is probably exposed to waivers and teams can claim him off waivers. How I'm assuming that's going to work. The rule. I should have been more specific here. The Rule 5 draft is canceled for this year only, for this off season. So we kind of discussed this in passing yesterday. I didn't really think the Twins had any really big name guys or guys that I was too concerned about being taken in the Rule 5 draft. You never know with those things, though. There's always kind of a surprise in those. The Twins probably, with the state of their pitching staff, the Twins probably could have used someone in the Rule 5 draft. It could have been a nice opportunity for them to add basically a free player. Whether or not they would have found somebody that they liked, who knows? I think it's kind of unfortunate for the players in particular that this isn't happening, but I'm sure it'll be back next year, hopefully. I think it's more than anything, it's just a timing thing. I think they just decided there wasn't enough time to get that on top of everything else that's going to happen. This is going to be nuts. It's going to be crazy for the next few weeks here. We are going to have an international draft going forward. Basically, there was a domestic draft and then international signing period. Now there's going to be a more structured draft for the international prospects. We'll see how that goes. And in exchange, basically, for agreeing to that, the qualifying offer system has been eliminated. Now, that's going to be, I'm assuming, starting next year because, if they just said, well, nobody has a qualifying offer now, that would make a pretty dramatic impact on the qualifying offers that were already made this offseason. But that qualifying offer system was a pretty big disaster, I think, for players. If you think about it, having a draft pick attached to your salary, that was going to suppress how much a team was going to pay for you. They were going to factor that into your cost. And the team that was losing that player wasn't always even motivated or interested in keeping them. So I don't think that was a good system. I think that's a positive thing that's going away. Some of the other things, these are interesting. I'm going to real quick take a look. Yeah, Lefty Mark says the AL Central teams are all in the upswing. I think, except for one team. I wonder which one you're referring to there. Maybe Cleveland? I think they all are. I really think they all are on the upswing. But that maybe says more to how bad 4 of the 5 teams were last season than anything. It's kind of hard to be on the downswing again if you're coming off such a bad year. Yeah, Bob says somebody wake up Derek Foley from this 3-year slumber. I'm all about it. Rodon, Kershaw, Trevor Story. Those are certainly 3 of the bigger free agent names that would make the most sense for the Twins and be impact guys. Absolutely. There are some concerns with all 3 of those guys, but there's not every free agent's going to be a slam dunk. If you're looking for guys that you're not going to have any concerns over, it's either the guy that's going to get a $300 million contract or, you're just not going to sign anybody if that's going to be your preference. Excuse me. If that's a pre-qualification is that they don't have any injury concerns. So I do hope, the Twins gamble a bit because I think it could be worth it. And I've been on the Carlos Rodon train, especially. Certainly some injury risk with him, but it makes, at some point you gotta take that on. And Jim Bobs mentions Ian Hamilton. Yeah, I'm surprised that Ian Hamilton didn't get a look last year, to be honest with you. He pitched pretty well for the Saints. He's a reliever. Sort of another guy in that big mix of bullpen guys that I could see where I'm not really concerned about the Twins being able to field a bullpen. It sort of all comes down to getting the right mix down, which that may take some time. But all right, so then there are some interesting things that went on with like rookies, prospects. That was a big. The players were motivated to adjust. It's going to be interesting to see how things change because. Now, if you're a prospect who finishes first or second in the Rookie of the Year voting, you will receive a full year of service time. So if your team basically tries to delay your service time, and you win Rookie of the Year, they didn't get anything out of it. You're getting a full year of service time. So and it's only first or second in Rookie of the Year voting, so it's not going to have a big impact. But it'll motivate some teams to break camp with their best players instead of sending them back down to the minors for a short amount of time before they can get another year of service time on them. And then also if a prospect who makes an opening day roster finishes in the top 3 of Rookie of the Year or top 5 in MVP/Cy Young voting. And this is one where I don't have all the details on it yet because I'm wondering what this means. That players club will be eligible to receive draft picks. So I'm not, I couldn't dig up before this stream what exactly were the qualifications of, who would be eligible or not. But, if you think about this in terms of like the Twins, do we think there's a chance Jose Miranda could finish in the top 3 of the Rookie of the Year in the American League if he's on the opening day roster? It's anybody's guess, but I think there'd be a good shot at that. So that could potentially qualify you to get an additional draft pick. Now, I'm sure it's not going to be like a first round draft pick. Who knows where that's going to be. But it's nice to see there's some kind of incentive pushing teams to get these guys who deserve to be there. That's the thing too. It's not really pushing guys up faster than they should be. It's simply making sure teams have incentive to put in this. It feels ridiculous to say because there shouldn't need to be any additional incentive. But hopefully these things work well and teams do put their best guys on the opening day rosters if they're ready. And then there's going to be a draft lottery, and I spoke about this kind of being, in my opinion, of a kind of a ridiculous thing that delayed things, in my opinion. I don't think this is going to make that big of an impact. I'm just going to be honest. It'll be kind of fun, though. It'll be kind of fun, but I don't think this is going to curb tanking at all. There's going to be a 6-team lottery. Basically, the first 6 picks in the draft will be selected via a lottery. All 18 non-postseason teams will be eligible, but there are weird rules with this too. And I put that in the next to the start in italics. So depending on whether you pay or receive, revenue sharing will depend on how you're eligible. So, and this is something we don't have to worry about for a while. The upcoming draft is already set, so this won't be until the next draft after that. But hopefully, again, I don't see that how it's going to really curb tanking. Really, it might make a teeny tiny little impact. Hopefully it does, though. I'm rooting for it too, and I think it will be interesting because maybe it'll kind of add some spice to the draft. If you think about it, the Twins, I think we're picking 8th in this upcoming draft. Well, if there was a draft lottery, we would have had a chance to pick 1st overall. So that's kind of fun. It adds a little spice to the draft. So we'll see how that goes. I'm not against it at all by any means. I just didn't really think that it was worth putting up as much of a fight as it seemed that the players did. It seemed like that took up quite a bit of negotiation time. I was hammering that out. All right. All right, there's a question on how the international draft might affect the Twins Dominican Baseball Academy. That's it, and there's a lot of stuff that's coming down, and there's a lot of things that happened, and I haven't had a lot of time to think about a lot of it. The main thing that I am happy about hearing with the draft is it does sound like there was, and hopefully it was enough. There was input from the Latin American population of MLB players on that. If you just look across the board, look at the union, look at the union reps, look at the leadership, not a whole lot of guys who were signed out of international, markets who are representing teams. So that kind of worried me that their future was going to be bargained away without them having much of an input. It seemed like there was some people being more vocal about that in the recent days, and I hope that they are satisfied with that because that's a giant population of the MLB player pool, and it doesn't seem like they have a whole lot of representation in the player reps. Of course, they have votes, they have a voice, and I hope that was heard enough. So. Joseph asking about some of the potential 2023 stuff. Now, remember, again, I want to stress that the bigger bases thing, the shift ban, the pitch clock, those are not going into effect this season. Those are potentially going to be 2023 items, and they're going to be sort of looking at this more. The bigger bases, from my understanding, it'll cut down slightly the distance between bases. So they're hoping more stolen bases, maybe some more infield singles get beats out. So that's more traffic on the bases, which is something that I know MLB leadership is sort of trying to accomplish. How would you ban shifts? There's a lot of that. That's a lot of speculation too. And that's something where I wasn't going to really react to until we knew what they were talking about. So we still don't, because they're kind of going to explore that some more. But kind of the main idea I've heard floated out there is that they're going to just require that 4 guys are in the infield dirt at all times, which that wouldn't be bad. You can be anywhere you want, but you got to have 4 guys in the infield dirt at all times. I would just prefer to leave things as they are, where there isn't any kind of limitations at all. But, if you're going to ban the shift, or make any kind of adjustments to that, I would be fine with that one, to be honest. I just don't think it's really going to change much. No matter whatever you do with the shift, I don't think it's going to make that big of an impact. Well, we're talking about adding some singles. And again, like I said, MLB leadership seems pretty motivated to try to get some more action on the bases, some more guys on base. But singles, I don't know that are going to create that much more excitement. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe there's some things, that in combination with the bigger bases, maybe that'll, again, maybe more base stealing, more singles hitters who can swipe a bag will be more valued. I'm not sure. That's the thing too with a lot of this stuff is we won't really know the impact of a lot of this stuff until kind of we see it in action. But again, the main thing, sorry if that was a little dry, kind of digging through all the guts of what was going on, because today is definitely a reason to celebrate more than anything. We're going to have Major League Baseball on April 7th, a full 162 game season. While I'm on the stream here, I haven't had a chance to keep an eye out on, if there's any transactions going on or anything. So you guys will have to let me know. I'm guessing not. Again, it was just lifted, the transaction freeze. So I think it's going to take a little bit of time to sort of get the wheel rolling again. I think tomorrow is going to be nuts. I'm just scrolling through. Yeah, I don't see anything at the top of my feed here. But again, some of the stuff we didn't discuss was the minimum is going up. The MLB minimum, that's great. Happy for the players for the win on that one. And the competitive balance tax, that stuff got all figured out. The both sides came to an agreement on that. That's another one where I was kind of frustrating that it took so long to hammer that out, because it's something that applies to so few teams, that it just is frustrating. That was such a hang up for so long. Not that it's an unimportant thing, because it is, but there's only a handful of teams that are going to ever kind of approach that, it seems like. So, yeah, still definitely frustrated that, they put us through all this. That was not a fun 100 days or 99 days or whatever it was. So frustrating that they just sat on their hands for the first 40 of that or whatever. And that really, especially ownership, showed such little care. Just appeared to not care. So it's not completely water under the bridge. In my eyes, still, very happy today. Today is a happy day. It's not a day to kind of rehash and be frustrated. All right. Benjamin's asking, who's your favorite end rotation starting pitching option? As far as I don't know if he's necessarily a back. His performance over the years is more of a back end guy. But I like Yusei Kikuchi quite a bit, who has been with Seattle. I think he's a lot better pitcher than his overall numbers would suggest how he's performed. I think he would be a nice guy to get in. I discussed if you go to my channel and go to the community tab, I shared, I did a whole video on kind of back end of the rotation, sort of cheap rotation option guys that were still out there. Obviously, we can't really have this conversation without saying Michael Pineda. It makes too much sense. The guy's been a very good pitcher for the Twins. I don't think there's going to be a ton of competition for him for whatever reason. I don't know why more teams aren't interested in him. Nice rotation option. Certainly not going to lift you up, by much. But the Twins' rotation right now is in such a state that even Michael Pineda would be a kind of a dramatic improvement. To be honest, yeah, Dylan Bundy. He's like a wild card. I think there's something there maybe. But that's something there maybe. And you're combining him with two rookies, basically. I know Bailey Ober's not a rookie anymore, but I think he's only made 20 starts. He's essentially a rookie. It really didn't do anything in my eyes to solidify things. I am intrigued by Bundy, though, but not in a, he's going to fix the rotation type intrigue at all. But he's got a great slider, and the Twins are a team that really preaches throwing your best pitches more. So I'm interested to see maybe he could get closer to his 2020 performance. He was quite good for the Angels then. I just feel good that the transaction freeze is lifted, because now we don't have to sit here and wonder for as long. Hopefully we see some moves coming through. And even though, again, the free agent market isn't, on the pitching side in particular, isn't very exciting, although there's a couple guys out there that are, there is still trade market. And I expect that to really pick up. And hopefully the Twins will be active there. So that definitely, it's very easy, easy to say that that's their biggest need, and it's not even close. And the rotation, the state of the rotation right now is not anywhere near close where it needs to be for them to be in a discussion of competing. But again, I think they've got a foundation with the lineup and with the bullpen potentially that they could. So there's enough there. It feels like, they're within striking distance, but they would have to have some good moves. They would have to, we're not talking about J-Hap, Matt Shoemaker types, they would have to have some good moves. All right. Well, I think I'll wrap it up there unless anybody here has any more questions. Thanks for hanging out. Again, we just streamed yesterday, so I see some familiar names from the live stream. So thanks for coming back again today. I figured, this was certainly, this is the kind of thing I've been practicing live streaming for when we have big news, to be able to have a nice setup, to be able to be comfortable enough to go live quick when some news breaks. So thanks for stopping by. As some more details come out about this other stuff, we'll certainly be discussing it, and, obviously keeping a very close eye on the transactions. And keep that in mind if any news comes out, if the Twins are signing anybody, making any trades, keep me in mind. I'll probably try to get on a live stream as soon as I can. Come hang out. We'll chat about the new additions, and I expect the Twins definitely will be making some moves. Now, the caliber of those moves, we'll see. So we'll see. Fingers crossed. Thanks for hanging out. We'll talk again soon.